Of course, former President Trump's announcement tonight raises questions about where the party will move going forward. There have been many Republicans embracing the candidacy. Some have tried to keep their distance. Let's talk about it with my guest tonight, Barak Lurie. He's author of the book Atheism Destroys and conservative commentator up late with me tonight on the Final Five. Good to see you tonight.
Thanks for having me.
As you watched this play out this evening, because we are live right now, what was your take?
My take was that Trump really hit all the points, the right points. He talked what was good, and he made a very stark contrast as to what the Biden administration has offered in the meantime. He talked about energy independence. That was a big deal. He talked about China, Putin, how this Ukraine war would never have happened. He talked about crime, of course, inflation. He really hit that very hard, and that was a really strong point of his. I think he really hit these points so strongly and also made such a stark contrast, made people realize, gosh, we really have gone a long way down in these past 2 years. So I think all in all, a really big success. He's reminded us that, look, win or lose any election, he's never a loser. He always manages to come out on top. So he suffered a lot of the blows over time, but he always seems to get right back up.
When you hear from a lot of Republicans over the last week since the midterms, including around here where we heard the likes of current Governor Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, the first Republican to win that office in years, Winsome Sears, the lieutenant governor, there have been people with daggers out for the former president saying that he is focusing on the wrong things moving forward. They believe that he's going to drag the ticket down, whatever the ticket may be in 2024. I mean, there's going to be a little more friction for the former president this time around within the party.
Well, there could very well be some friction. I mean, right now, look, it's really too early to tell. Right now, he's just announced, and now he's kind of laid down the gauntlet. He's basically told to anybody who might be running for president, look, I'm going to be a factor. You want to deal with me? You'll deal with me. So I think it's really too early to tell whether or not somehow he's going to be the friction or whether he's going to be slowing anybody down. There may have been talk like this, but that's always been the talk with Trump. They always say that somehow he will derail the Republican Party. But look, he's changed the Republican Party for the better. DeSantis wouldn't be DeSantis without Trump, let's face it. He's done so without being necessarily as abrasive as Trump, that's true. But he has the audacity of Trump, the ability to move forward and say, I don't care what you think, I'm going to do what's right. That's the true legacy of Trump. So, yeah, I hear this talk about how he might be a drag on the Republican Party. I don't see it, and it's certainly too early to tell that.
When you look at the fact he announced, because the midterms usually always signal the fact that the next presidential election is just around the corner, and the first votes won't be cast for at least a year at this point. But, you know, what do you make of him jumping in at this point? Was this a matter of him getting in there and trying to clear the field? I mean, do you think he was trying to scare off the likes of DeSantis moving forward? Because it doesn't seem as though he's likely going to do that.
Well, I think that's a great point. I think that what he said, it's really a brilliant chess move on his part. Look what would happen had he not said something quickly, because now is the time that a lot of people often throw their hat in the ring. And this is no surprise that Trump would be throwing his hat in the ring. Remember that he's been having all these rallies in the past 2 years. So as a consequence, you would expect him to do something. If he didn't do something now, there would be many questions about it. Why isn't he running? Why isn't he running? Why doesn't he announce? Sure. That would be exactly the situation. So DeSantis, he's basically telling DeSantis, telling everyone else, no, I was really serious about running again, and now I am. So I'm a factor. Please be careful as you tread, because I'm going to win this 2024 election. Look, I love Ron DeSantis. I think he's fantastic. But I think Trump really should have his second shot at the ring.
Before I let you go here, so the Democrats got a lot of guff in 2016 because they kind of cleared the field for Hillary Clinton, and they didn't have a bench. I mean, the bench was Joe Biden, who was, you know, in his mid-70s when he was elected. He could be 79, 80 years old when he runs, but Donald Trump's also going to be just 4 years behind him. So is this time to start at least cultivating that bench for the GOP moving forward, or is it fair to put all the eggs in this basket?
Well, I think that's a great question. I do think that we're cultivating the bench, as it were, and DeSantis is part of that bench. Yeah. I think that Youngkin could also be part of that bench. So I think your question answers itself. Yes, Trump is older now, but I don't think he's got any of the issues, dementia or otherwise, that we see now in Joe Biden. It seems like Donald Trump is more energetic than ever, more willing to take on the issues of the day than ever. So I think we've got a really good shot in 2024 with Trump or otherwise.
Well, we're off and running. Barak Lurie, thanks for joining me tonight. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And the Final Five is back after this.